Welcome to Women Lead, a production of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, Inc. We are your hosts. I'm Kathy Eggleston.
I'm Michelle Austin-Pammies.
And I'm Bernadette Norris-Weeks.
Our show today is all about the Community Foundation of Broward and the impact that the organization is making in our community.
The Community Foundation has been around since 1984, and many have called it a best-kept secret. However, that appears to be changing now. Our guest today is Dr. Jennifer O'Flannery Anderson, President and CEO of the Foundation. She will share information about the organization's mission, goals, plans for community outreach, and the work being done in the areas of racial equity and social justice.
Now, there are approximately 750 community foundations nationwide. Simply, they are grant-making public charities dedicated to improving the lives of people in a defined geographic area. They bring together the financial resources of individuals, families, and businesses to support effective nonprofits in their communities. When people think of community foundations, they really think about wealthy donors, because the giving is centered around tax planning and estate planning. But right now we need to talk about other aspects of philanthropy. For example, the not so wealthy, the professional class that can afford to give some money and to do some tax planning. And we need to talk about people who cannot give any money, but who can engage in volunteering. So we need this conversation.
Absolutely. You can put together gifts and an endowed fund that will last well beyond your years here on earth. And so I think we as professionals need to be thinking about the tax implications and how it will benefit us, because you're going to pay Uncle Sam one way or the other, right?
Right. Well, one of the things I love is that the Community Foundation's motto is for good forever. And you can participate and put some money into funds at the Community Foundation that will do good, frankly, even after you are gone. And we don't tend to have those conversations in our community as philanthropic as we really all are. Oftentimes, statistics show that lower income people are actually giving a higher percentage of their incomes than the wealthy. But we don't have those strategic conversations about how to really get the most bang for our giving buck and how to make it last forever.
Legacy. And that's what we'll be talking about right after these messages with our guest, Jennifer O'Flannery Anderson, the President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Broward. Stay tuned.
This is James.
Jimmy!
Mom, Dad, this is James.
Jimmy!
James? James Harrison from Roosevelt High?
Jimmy! Yeah! Oh! You good, Jimmy?
The 2021 Toyota RAV4.
Jimmy!
The RAV for all of you. Right now, lease a new 2021 Toyota RAV4 Elite for just $249 a month for 36 months. Toyota. Let's go places.
At the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, our mission is to enhance and expand leadership by women of color. We do this in a variety of different ways, including but not limited to providing mentorship opportunities for young professionals where we assist in helping to create paths to leadership. We empower women to develop capacities for social change. We produce programs that promote heritage awareness, and we provide training opportunities for business and government. Our institute holds seminars focused on professional success techniques, and we host many other events such as our popular Advocates for Change and Leaders Connect. The Women of Color Empowerment Institute publishes a magazine called Women Lead. Our signature event is the Women of Color Empowerment Conference, a yearly conference where hundreds of leaders gather from all across the United States and beyond. To learn more about membership and how you can support our programs or be a sponsor of the Women Lead TV, visit us at nationalwomenofcolor.com. Again, that's nationalwomenofcolor.com.
The law office of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
Welcome back to Women Lead. We have with us today Dr. Jennifer O'Flannery Anderson, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Broward. Dr. O'Flannery Anderson received her bachelor's degree from Florida State University, her master's degree from the University of South Florida, and her PhD from Florida Atlantic University. Now, in addition, she has participated in 2 executive leadership programs at Harvard University. She is definitely a friend of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, and we are so happy to have her join us here today.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Thanks.
Jennifer.
It's so nice to be with you. I feel like this is kind of old home week, so
That's
thank
right.
you very much.
Thanks for being with us. So, Jennifer, you've been with the Community Foundation since 2020. Tell our viewers, how would you describe the Community Foundation? What are community foundations? And what are you most proud of during your time in leadership?
Well, thank you again for having me. This is one of my favorite questions. What is a community foundation, and what is ours doing here in Broward County? So there's about 750 community foundations across the nation, and they really are place-based. They are in a county, a city, a region, and their purpose is to really provide long-term support and leadership to that area. We are kind of the legacy of a community. We're a place where people make their gifts as part of their estate plans. We're a place that convenes many different organizations to address really critical issues the community's facing. And I feel as though we're entrusted with people's faith in and love of their community and where they want to make sure that their philanthropic dollars are invested. So we try to be great stewards of the funds that they give us to make sure they're invested wisely in the market, so then they can be invested very wisely in the community. We're like a long-term savings account for the community, and it's really a privilege to have this job and to think about how our community will be served and be better in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, and 100 years. This organization's been around for almost 40 years, and I had the privilege of following an amazing CEO, Linda Carter. She led the organization for 23 years. So I've learned to come in after her and make sure that some of the things that she really valued as a leader in the community and some of the priorities she had set and the board had set continue. So I really learned to not disrupt things, but to make sure that we hold true to some of the values that are important to the organization and to the community, and that we start to even make those better. So we've been able to work on our strategic plan. We've been able to be really responsive to COVID needs. And I feel as though we've been able to keep and hold on to those elements of our own legacy and tradition that are so important to help our organization be the best that it can be.
Wow.
Awesome.
Well, you mentioned the community foundations deal with critical issues in their own communities. So for you and for Broward County, what are some of the critical issues, and how do you determine what they are, and what is the foundation proposing to do?
It's an excellent question. It's something we try to do every day. So we just finished doing our strategic plan. One of the things we did was have it in a huge set of listening sessions with fund holders, with community leaders, partners, nonprofit and corporate partners, with everyday citizens to hear what are some of their challenges. We also work with a lot of other leaders in the community. We study a lot of data, and so we try to use all of that to help form what we think are some of our key priorities.
A while ago, you mentioned that your donors tend to come from, I guess, they're pretty much wealthy donors because they're considering estate planning issues.
Good point.
So you have others who are concerned about tax planning and who can be your donors as well. There are others out here listening to us today who may not be able to donate, but who want to be engaged in their community and who want to contribute in some way. Volunteering, for example, could be an option. What can you tell us about what volunteering there might be in terms of opportunities in the community?
Volunteering is the most important thing all of us can do because it shows we care, it shows that we're setting time aside, and it shows that we want to help and set an example for others. So there's so many ways to volunteer. Little leagues are such a great way. Many of our libraries and schools have reading programs, so you can go in and read to children, help them brush up and improve their reading. Mentoring through Big Brothers Big Sisters is a great program. Women of Tomorrow has a wonderful mentoring program. In the hospitals, many of the hospitals have ways to help take care of patients and provide services even to some of the employees. Parks and recreation programs. There are so many ways that we can all do a little bit. And for me, I think that's the lesson of philanthropy in general. People give at small, medium, and large amounts. Everyone gives what is doable for them. So if we do that with giving and we do that with volunteering, it can really have a tremendous impact on our community. One of the lessons I think I've learned through COVID is that we all have to take ownership of our community, and giving through philanthropy and through volunteering is a really tangible way to say, I love where I live, I love the people in my neighborhood, and I want to help make them better. And we can't expect government money to do everything and fix everything. Different nonprofits work at different levels in giving, but just remember to think about some way that you can give to your church, to a nonprofit, to a healthcare organization, to an art and culture organization, and give something that's meaningful to you, and also try to think about giving some of your time too, because both are equally important.
That is true. Well, I'll have to tell you that I am so excited about some of the work all of the work really, that the Community Foundation is doing, but particularly work dealing with social justice and racial equity issues. And I will tell you, I'm a new board member. Thank you very much. I want to ask you, how did the Community Foundation become involved with this very significant issue of racial equity and social justice?
So I think the George Floyd murders were a pivotal point for the Community Foundation, and I heard someone use the phrase, it was the summer of reckoning. And I thought that was an excellent way to describe what our nation went through in the summer of 2020, that so many issues and inequities came to the forefront, and in many different ways and examples. So I think community foundations, again, across the nation, have been working on issues in local communities related to racial equity and social justice for many years. But I think it gave the community foundations a platform to organize and to catalog and to think about, okay, well, how could we connect some of our programs more intentionally, and how can we do some things differently and reach out from maybe some of the traditional communities where the community foundations are embedded. And I think this community foundation really embraced that. And we were able to do a large grant called our Be Bold Prize that was kind of designed to be an X Prize. How could we invest $1 million to help get people back to work? And that process morphed into not just COVID response, but those who have been systemically underemployed. How do we use those dollars, not just for COVID relief jobs, but for folks who have been left behind for so many reasons? So it started to almost happen organically. The art of community and art with racial equity and social justice, that kind of came up organically through board and staff conversations. How can we take this grant that we've normally done and be more intentional, be more impactful, and use it in a positive way? So I think it's just starting to filter into a little bit of everything that we do, and I'm really proud of that. And it's a good learning lesson for me. How do we help be an example? But more importantly, how do we learn and be better and share that journey and those lessons with others.
I love that. Wow, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of learning, I'm a data girl, so I know that the Community Foundation recently completed a study on philanthropy in our community. So, what trends did you find? What lessons did you learn? What can you tell us about that study?
Well, Kathy, it was all data. It was hundreds of tables and more data than we could ever imagine. It was IRS data, which is always interesting to look at. But it's a study called Untapped Potential, and it's something I felt was important to do to give us as a community a baseline for where giving is in Broward County and kind of how we compare. So we could look at some opportunities to even do better. So what some of the key findings were that our community is generous. Over $1.2 billion a year are given by Broward residents.
Wow.
Which is really impressive. Then we looked at, and another really interesting point was that people with lower incomes give a higher percentage of their salary than people of wealth. So our own folks recognize how important it is to take care of their own. So that made me happy. A couple of the areas for improvement, when we looked at how Broward County compares to cities in Florida, major metropolitan cities in Florida, and our national peers cities that are size and similar composition, our giving was less. So if we're able to increase just a couple percentage points, even half percentage points, we would be able to have another $700 million a year annually to support our nonprofit communities. So I think we call the study Untapped Potential, and I think that's a great title because we're demonstrating we're giving, we're demonstrating that people care, but we still have a gap and an opportunity to improve. We also looked at private foundations that are based in Broward because I know a lot of nonprofits depend on grants from private foundations, and a majority of the funds that they grant out actually go outside of Broward. So we have an opportunity to spend more time with those foundations and help them know about some of the needs and opportunities right here in Broward. So this year, we're going to do a second iteration of the study, looking at the zip codes where giving is the greatest and compare them with the zip codes where the real estate is of the same value, but the giving isn't. And to see if we can come up with some characteristics or explanations for why. What are the differences in those areas that giving would be higher in one and not in another? So stay tuned. I'll be back to share those results with you.
One quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Did you isolate at all diverse philanthropy? Do you have any data back yet on Black philanthropy, for example?
So no, all we had was salary. So we weren't able to get it by race, but that would be another, I think that may come out when we look at the zip codes as well. And I think when we look at Black philanthropy especially, there is so much great history through churches, through parks, through neighborhood organizations. And so one of the things that we're doing at the Community Foundation is we started a small grants initiative. So small nonprofits that have just started, maybe more grassroots organizations can apply for grants between $5,000 and $25,000 just for their operations to help them get going, get a little bit, maybe an investment in some technology or a special program. And we feel like that's going to really help us reach out into Black and Brown communities and into organizations that are led by and serving Black and Brown communities. So I think that when we talk about philanthropy, we have to talk about it across the community and across the different neighborhoods, and not just what people may think or perceive is a traditional philanthropist. Because as I said earlier, we're all philanthropists and we all have the chance to give in small and big ways.
In terms of philanthropic giving, what is the foundation doing to move more people of color into foundation ranks so that they are either your donors or participants in your board decisions?
You are exactly right, because that is something should be embedded and woven into every part of our organization. So I'm really happy that Bernadette just went on our board. She'll be a great example. We have several amazing fund holders. One that comes to mind is Jonathan Allen. He and his brother Tim set up an endowed scholarship fund for students in Broward County who want to plan to go to college and would like a scholarship, and they did that in honor of their father, George Allen, who was an amazing civil rights attorney here in Broward County. And
We all knew George.
he
Yes.
amazing accomplishments. So for me, that gift is a great story that we have to intentionally tell to many different people. Hopefully that will inspire them to inquire to us, and it will challenge us to find new ways of reaching out into different areas of the community and different pockets of people who would be great donors to the community foundation. So it's kind of both ways. But the George Allen Scholarship and Jonathan's involvement with the community foundation for me has been pivotal in challenging me to how can we really tell this story, share this gift, and learn from the experience. I think this Summer of Reckoning is, for me, a time of personal reflection and thinking about how I can, and our organization can learn and change and open our eyes up.
That's really a great point that Michelle raised, because
Yep.
I'll tell you that, and Kathy's been a board member of the Community Foundation
Yes.
in the past. One of the things that I was surprised to know is that the Community Foundation really offers a lot of opportunities for people to come in at a level that they feel comfortable. And I know that there are a lot of other professionals out there who would do the same thing if they knew here are opportunities. You can come in at this level, you can come at that level, and understanding how this process works in terms of giving. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that just a little bit so that maybe our viewers who may be interested in looking at lower levels that may in the past have not historically been thought of as, you're a philanthropist if you can do this. And it could be multi-years. It can be a gift that you give over a period of 5 years, for instance, that is, is a significant amount of money, but over a period of time. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
So I would say one of the core elements of a community foundation is having an endowment. So an endowment is an investment. And what we do each year is we invest the endowment and in the stock market in many different ways. And the earnings that we receive from that investment, a portion of that gets granted out. So for instance, if you had a $100,000 fund, that fund would generate maybe about 5%, say on average. So we would be able to grant that 5% out every year forever. So it's something that goes on in perpetuity. And I think that one of the nice things is that people as donors can be involved in how those funds are granted out. So you can make one check each year to your fund. The fund will continue to grow, and then the earnings you can have a role in determining how they're invested in the community and granted out. You can identify if you want them to go to cancer or to children's programs or to parks or art, or you can even specify specific organizations. So we have lots of different ways the funds can be used. An entry point for us, a minimum fund is $25,000. So that's a great way to start. And of course, that can be pledged over multiple years. So you could do $5,000 a year for 5 years, and then you would have your own fund in your own name forever that would generate a grant out each year. So I think that's something that's special, to think about how your gift will exist forever and have a long-term effect. And I think that's something that's a privilege for us at the Community Foundation every day, to talk to people about their legacy. What's your legacy going to be? And how can you make sure that philanthropy and your own home community are part of that legacy? So I would say in terms of doing an endowed fund, that $25,000 is kind of where we start. But there are many other ways that you can support. We have funds for the environment, for cancer, for summer jobs, for mental health,
for the Women of Color
art,
Empowerment
for the Women
Institute.
of Color, yes, Women of Color Empowerment Institute, and people can make a contribution to those funds. we're really fortunate right now. We have 24 different companies and organizations that we have partnerships with.
And it can be a tax write-off.
It's
Yes.
definitely
That's
a tax
There we
write-off.
go.
And we have several staff who are really smart and sophisticated in helping you understand some of the different giving options and some of the different tools that are available to help you. So, and they also work a lot with attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors as they're working with their clients to help, provide a portfolio of different options.
Fantastic, Jennifer. Now, tell us a little bit more about how we continue to support and create a culture of giving throughout every community and every space.
I think that's so important. And I hope if someone asks, Jennifer, what's your legacy? I hope someone says, she really tried to create a culture of giving in Broward County. Because as I said, as a lesson from COVID and this pandemic, I think that's one of the things I've taken away is that we all have a responsibility and a privilege to help support our own community. So I think it's for everyone to think about what is it that I can do in a small or large way, not what is someone else doing or what is the government going to do, but what can I do? And how can I say thank you? How can I express my appreciation? How can I show that I care and that I want to make things better? So if we all find small and large ways to do that, to support nonprofits, to support our churches, to support the art and culture community, we will all be so much better off. So I think it's just for us to think about how we all take a little bit of ownership and express a little bit of caring to organizations and causes that are important to us and that have made a difference in our lives. We really do have to give and appreciate and take care of the folks who work in nonprofits and healthcare and education in our own community because they really helped get us through.
Well, this has been wonderful. Our time with you
has.
today,
Oh.
we've learned so much. And any closing parting words, Kathy? As a former Community Foundation board member?
You know what? I will just say serving on that board was one of the highlights of my community service. It is such a well-run organization. And one of the things I think that you do so well is lead conversations about change and the role that community foundations can play in convening people to understand what the real issues are and how we move forward together.
Well
Thanks.
said.
Thanks.
Well said.
I loved being with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's our time today. And until the next time,
Be empowered.